Hi everybody, this is another video on how to make a sculpting, or this is another video on how to make a animal out of clay, and today we're going to be learning how to make a brachiosaurus. So, first thing you want to do is, I always start off with the neck, and the neck is, for any sauropod dinosaur, long necks as people most call them, is you want to pinch out a piece of clay and just pinch it out until it's a very, very thin bulbous end right here. Make sure that it's extremely long, or long enough to you can be easily identified as the neck of your brachiosaurus. I have the second piece of clay right here because I'm probably going to need to use it for making the legs and tail of this animal, because I still want to have the body of this animal to be large enough to support to make it actually look like it's not shrink wrapped or anything like that. Just need to get the neck a little bit elongated here. Alright, then what you want to do with your long snake-like neck is you in fact probably would want to pinch out a bit of clay like this, and that's going to be the top part of the snout of the head right there. Right there. Now, as you probably noticed on Brachiosaurus, if you've seen the Jurassic Park movies, they have this crest that comes down. They have like this nasal chamber that comes down from from the top of their head all the way down to the ridge of to where their nose begins. And so, what we're going to do is, if you have a second piece of clay, that's fine, or you can use the same piece of clay that you're making the body and neck out of. But what I usually do is I grab this second piece of clay, and what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to kind of make the crest into a triangular shape, and then make sure that it's firmly fastened onto the head, otherwise it's probably going to fall off. Okay, so there's our head of our brachiosaurus, right here. Now, what we want to do next is we're going to make a little indent in the bottom jaw, like our Spinosaurus that we did a couple days ago. So, and that's where the bottom jaw, if you take a close look at that, let me see if I can fix it a little bit. See the little tiny indent that's right there in the top jaw? That's where we're going to attach our bottom jaw. And to do that, like the Spinosaurus, we're going to grab a piece of clay and we're going to make it into an elongated shape that's very thin at the end. And we're going to attach it to where it is, to the bottom part of the neck, to the underside of the neck, and then kind of start shape and kind of start finding in the, or kind of start dragging pieces of clay from the top jaw and the neck into the bottom jaw so that the bottom jaw is secure and firmly fastened on there, because we don't want the bottom jaw falling off. And like I said, with the Spinosaurus video, you always want to make sure that it is firmly secure to, you want to make sure that if you're using different types of clay, especially with air dry clay, you want to make sure that if you're attaching the bottom jaw with a separate piece of clay, legs, arms, tail, anything like that, you need to make sure that it is firmly fastened with multiple layers of clay on there, otherwise it is going to fall off. So, let me see if I can get it closer here. There we go. There's our brachiosaurus head. Now, here comes the next part, which is going to be the most challenging part, making the legs. Now, brachiosaurus legs are very, very wide and very, very elephant-like, and they're very, very, very huge. And it's going to take a lot of clay to make these legs. But what you want to do is that if you have a second piece of clay, which I highly recommend for doing projects like this, because you're not going to have enough clay on the body and where the body and head and neck are going to be, to where it's going to be very difficult to make legs out of the main body and neck and head. So what I do is that I pull out pieces of clay and I roll them into a cylindrical shape, and I basically attach them to the body of the brachiosaur. And that I do this with most sauropods. And like I said, make sure that there's an even layer of clay covering the leg where you've joined the leg and neck together, so that the leg stays on there and you don't have to worry about it falling off when you're going to bake it or when you're leaving it to set and dry. And we're going to do the same thing with the other. Like, same as the first. Just like the first, same as the first, you're going to do the same thing on the second leg, on the second front leg, and we'll get into more detail later. But for right now, we're just going to have two pillar-like shapes on our brachiosaurus, and it's going to be simple, short, and sweet for right now. We will get to making sure that they actually look like legs a little bit later in the video. Now, the next part is making the short back legs. As you all know, if you've seen Jurassic Park, which you probably have, Brachiosaurus has these very short hind limbs, and they're a lot shorter than their front limbs, and that is because this helps them actually reach higher vegetation, and it also helps them elevate their necks to a higher degree. And during the Jurassic period, having a long neck was certainly advantageous, because most sauropods, like other sauropods, say Camarasaurus and Diplodocus, they could only resort to eating medium-sized trees, bushes, and basically scraping off eating ground vegetation. Brachiosaurus, however, was adapted to its environment by adapting a long neck and head and large front limbs, so that it could feast at the tops of trees, and leaves have more nutrition. Leaves and trees had more nutrition than that of the other Jurassic plants during that era. So having a long neck and head proved to be an actual advantage. Plus, having a long neck and head also gives you an advantage against predators. Like, say, if an Allosaurus or Saurophaganax or a Torvosaurus was sneaking up on you, a Brachiosaurus would have an advantage and would be able to see for miles and miles around. But it is scientifically proven that Brachiosaurus could not stand on its hind legs. Its hind legs were way too short and weak and couldn't support that much weight in order to stand on its hind legs. But it would primarily stand on all four legs with its big huge back legs and with its big huge front legs, and it would just basically feast on the tops of the trees. However, this made drinking water very, very difficult. Because, much like a giraffe, if you have Brachiosaurus probably had to extend out its legs and had to splay out its legs in order for it to take a proper drink of water. And now with the back legs, it's the same thing as the front legs, except it's just going to be a lot smaller. You're going to take a small cylindrical shape. You're going to take a piece of clay, roll it into a small cylindrical shape, and you're going to stick it on the hindquarters. And the same thing goes with the front legs. Make sure that there's an even amount of clay to where you join the legs and midsection with. Otherwise, it's going to fall off. And I'm going to keep telling you this throughout the video so that you do not forget, because I've had this problem lots of times. And fortunately, we are actually almost done with most of the main parts. Next thing is to make the tail. And now the tail is extremely easy. What you want to do is, again, have another piece of clay, and you're going to basically roll one end into a very, very thin cone-like shape. Okay? Exactly like this. And then you're going to basically stick this tail onto the rump of the Brachiosaurus. Right here. And now you may need some more clay for this in order for the tail to actually be large enough and thick enough to properly sync up with the rump of the Brachiosaurus. And so what I do sometimes is that I just grab some more clay and just reinforce it and make it more natural looking so that it does not look, so that the tail does not look malformed or anything like that. And when you're done with the tail, we are going to now move on to the legs again, because we're going to make some minor details. Okay, so there we go. So there's our Brachiosaur, looking mighty fine, if I do say so myself. Okay. So we're going to start with the front legs. So you're going to want to bend the legs at a slight angle to about 45 degrees, and then you're going to want to bend the legs. You want to bend the lower part of the legs down. Let me see if I can get this in shot here. There we go. You want to bend the lower part of the leg, which is actually going to be the ankle, down. And we're going to replicate the same thing on the other side. But first, you're going to want to add a claw on the foot that you're making the leg into. Okay, and so what you want to do is you want to grab a piece of clay and pinch it forward, and you'll have your claw. And then we're going to make small toes, okay? And just like the claw, just pinch some clay and drag it outwards. That'll make it look more natural. Okay? And the Jurassic Park brachiosaurus had 5 toes, but scientifically speaking, they only had 3, which included the claw on their front foot. However, we're going to make it more Jurassic Park-like, for the sake of the video. Okay, so there's leg number 1. All finished, sorry. Now we're going to move on to the other leg. So the same as the first, exactly as the first, you're going to want to bend the other front leg at a 45-degree angle, and then bend the ankle, or bend the piece of clay that is going to be the ankle, downwards into basically a more or less straight line, exactly as the first front leg. And then we're going to replicate, making the claw and 5 toes. Pinch and drag is what I like to call. Pinch and drag. And after we're done with the toes, we're going to move on to the back legs. And there we go. There are both front legs. All done with all 5 toes complete. And now we're going to move on to the back legs. We're going to move on to the hind legs now. And the hind legs are exactly the same thing. You want to except you're going to want to bend the first hind leg. Sorry, wrong way. You're going to want to bend the first hind leg backwards at a 45-degree angle, and then extend the shin of the, basically extend the shin of the leg downwards like this. And then you're going to pinch some clay into a little tip, and that's basically what's going to resemble a foot for a little bit. Unlike the front feet, you do not have to put claws on the back feet. This is only for scientific accuracy and extra detail if you want to. The extra little bits of detail are designed to just add a little bit of character and flash to your dinosaur. Now, once you get done with both hind limbs, you're going to want to, like the front feet, simple and efficient, just pull down 4 pieces of clay, pinch and drag them into the front. And the same's going to go for both legs. That's going to make it, and those are going to be our Brachiosaurus's back toes. Alright. Now, we're going to move on to another scientifically accurate bit of the sculpt. And that is Brachiosaurus most likely had spines going along its back, going along the top part of its neck and along its body right here. And that's because that again helped its neck keep it in high elevation so it can reach the top parts of the trees. So, what you're going to want to do for the spine, for the small neck and for the small spines, is that you're going to want to to pinch a piece of clay into basically what looks like one of the toes of on the legs, and then just thin it out. This makes it so that this, and this again, this is totally up to you. You do not have to do this. I like to do it so that I can give my brachiosaurus some flair and some scientific accuracy. Okay, so there are the neck spines. We're not going to do that many neck spines, but we're not going to do that many spines because I think that too many spines would actually look a little bit too ridiculous, in my personal opinion. Next thing is we're going to add the back spines, which are a little bit, which are going to be a little bit bigger and a little bit longer than the neck spines. And the same thing applies for the neck spines. Just pinch and drag the spines out from the hindquarters of the animal. I am going to do approximately 6 or 7 spines, and that'll help just, instill that these are spines that are designed to help with the Brachiosaurus's balance and stuff like that. Okay, and then I kind of run into this problem a little bit. The neck of my Brachiosaurus, to me, looks like it's a little bit thin, and if that head is a little bit thin, then that's fine. You're going to want to grab some clay and reinforce it and give it a little bit more thick posture. You don't want your Brachiosaurus neck to kind of look like a snake, because the Brachiosaurus neck is supposed to be thick and very, very heavy. And once you're done with that, we are basically done with our Brachiosaurus. And again, I will say this, same thing I said in the Spinosaurus video. It does not matter if your Brachiosaurus doesn't turn out exactly like mine. Your Brachiosaurus can turn out in a different way. It's completely up to you how you want your Brachiosaurus to look. And also, it's a clay sculpture. You can always fix it. If you find something wrong with it, or if there's something that you don't like, you can fix it. Especially if you're using modeling clay. Because this clay never sets. So there we go. There's our Brachiosaurus. All peppered up. All done. And as always, I will catch you guys in the next video. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And the next one, we're going to be doing a Cenozoic animal. And I think you're going to like it a lot. This is T-Rex Master 100, signing off. Have a great day, guys.